Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here's a look at some of the stories we have lined up for you tonight. Water bombers help fight against multiple out-of-control wildfires in Newfoundland, while 500 more people are evacuated in Saskatchewan, bringing the total to over 4,000. Plus, a judge denies bail for 3 men charged in an alleged plot to forcibly seize land near Quebec City. And a whoopsie under whoop-up drive. Traffic closes in both directions after a truck carrying equipment strikes the underside of the bridge.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks so much for joining us. Prime Minister Mark Carney huddled behind closed doors today with his cabinet and premiers. The virtual meetings came less than a week after U.S. President Donald Trump hit Canada with a 35% tariff on goods not compliant with the Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade agreement. Tariff rates for Canadian steel, aluminum, and copper remain at 50%. Carney says he and Trump have not spoken in recent days, but they'll talk when it, quote, makes sense. Meanwhile, Ontario Premier Doug Ford says he wants to see dollar-for-dollar retaliation, but that doesn't mean he won't back Carney's approach.
Well, without getting into confidential details, we've been communicating, which is most important. I think the Prime Minister is doing everything in his power to get a fair trade deal with the U.S. Dominic LeBlanc, which I've always said is an absolute champion. He's been down there making sure that we get a fair trade deal. And then Secretary Lutnick had a good conversation yesterday with him, and yeah, no, it was positive. It was positive. U.S. is our largest customer. We respect them, but it has to go both ways. You can't have tariffs on one side and not the other. I still stand by what I say. Dollar for dollar, tariff for tariff. They understand strength, not weakness, and we should never, ever roll over and be weak. Okay, so let me be very clear. I'm 100% supportive of the Prime Minister and the federal government. And when you sit around at a family dinner table, you discuss all sorts of ideas, and that's what we're going to do. But just in the last 3 months, we've seen the U.S. auto industry face $6.2 billion in tariff-related costs, with most of them projecting significantly higher costs for the year. We're looking at 37,000 manufacturing jobs that have disappeared in the U.S., and factory employment is the lowest it's been in 5 years, which is not a good thing. And you see what happens with President Trump. Someone gives them the wrong job numbers that are accurate job numbers, they get fired. Well, you know, President Trump has to realize it's costing companies billions of dollars. So they need to shift and start looking at working collaboratively with us.
On the issue of retaliatory tariffs, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe disagrees with Premier Ford. During a radio interview, Moe said Canada should dial down its retaliatory measures. This all comes just one day after Carney announced a $1.2 billion in support for Canada's struggling softwood lumber. He promised that Canada will not play industries off against each other for the sake of a trade deal with the U.S.
To be clear, we're not sacrificing any industry. We're working for the best deals for all our industries, and part, to bring it back to today, of getting the best deal, not just in the trade discussions with the United States, but for what really matters. The people behind me and who they represent, the workers in the industry, the businesses, the ones we can't see, the Indigenous communities that are active in the industry, all Canadians. Part of getting the best deal for them is to build the industry, is to innovate, to develop new markets, and be our own best customer. And that's what those aren't just words, we're putting behind those words $1.25 billion.
The Manitoba Métis Federation has turned down the Prime Minister's invitation to discuss his Liberal government's controversial major projects bill. The Federation says Carney's decision to include the Métis Nation of Ontario in tomorrow's meeting undermines the integrity of the gathering, saying it won't attend the meeting alongside another Métis group it believes has no reason to exist.
We know full well we're probably the best and most suited to be sitting across the table with the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister decided to invite the Métis National Council, which is not a legitimate body. The Métis Nation in Ontario has caused a great political swell in Ontario by the First Nations, who have indicated that if the Métis Nation Ontario, with their fraudulent Métis, attempted to be part of this process of national projects, they will oppose because of that purpose alone, that they are not truly Indigenous people. There's a jeopardy now that MNO is bringing to the table, and the Prime Minister is allowing that to happen. The Métis National Council has only 2 members. It does not have legal standing in any capacity that have the right to be at that table. They try to make a deal with us that they would put them in Zoom or somewhere else. But it doesn't prevent MNC from putting a press release later or a statement saying that they were at the meeting with the Prime Minister, yet they're not even a legitimate body. It is something that puzzles me because he made it very clear he's going to meet with rights holders.
Carney had promised meetings with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis after Indigenous leaders said they were not consulted adequately on Bill C-5. The bill gives Ottawa power to fast-track projects it deems to be in the national interest by sidestepping environmental protections and other legislation. Water bombers are helping in the fight against multiple out-of-control wildfires in Newfoundland. Premier John Hogan says 6 active fires are currently burning and half of them are out of control. He says an unknown number of structures have been destroyed on the eastern side of the province. About 750 blazes burning across the country have also prompted evacuations. Thousands of people recently from a First Nation in northern Manitoba as wildfires threatened to cut off road access and muddied air quality. Meantime, in Saskatchewan, roughly 500 more people have been forced out of their homes because of the wildfires. The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency says fires burning over the long weekend caused residents of La Loche to flee. Officials say that brings the total number of wildfire evacuees in the province to about 4,000. Saskatchewan was reporting 82 active wildfires on Tuesday. A judge has denied bail for 3 men charged in an alleged plot to forcibly seize land in the Quebec City area. The men in their 20s face many charges, including terrorism charges. A 4th accused is a man in his 30s who's facing weapons charges and has been granted bail under a lengthy list of conditions. The Canadian Armed Forces have said 2 of the accused were active members of the military at the time of their arrest last month. While there has been a documented rise in anti-Semitism since Israel responded to the October 7th attack by Hamas, Muslim leaders here in Canada say they're dealing with an increase in Islamophobia. The Islamophobia Research Hub at York University released a report today showing schools and employers are linking Palestinian culture with terrorism and retaliating against people already traumatized by the Gaza war.
The range of incidents documented in the report include hate-motivated crimes such as violent assaults, vandalism, and arson, discrimination, doxing, and blacklisting in employment provision of services and educational spaces as they relate to Muslim, Palestinian, and Arab Canadians, as well as those speaking out against the persecution of Palestinians. It includes disinformation, including foreign interference, fake news, and unfounded accusations, attacks on academic freedom, freedom of expression, and student safety in elementary, secondary, and post-secondary educational settings, and civil liberties violations related to protests and dissent.
The report urges all levels of government to officially recognize anti-Palestinian racism and calls on Ottawa to crack down on foreign interference that targets Muslims in Canada. In international news, a helicopter crash in Ghana has killed 8 people, including the country's defense and environment ministers. The military says the helicopter took off this morning from the capital of Accra toward a gold mining town in the Ashanti region, but went off the radar. The vice chair of the ruling party and a top national security advisor were also on board. The cause of the crash isn't immediately known. Back here in Alberta, the provincial government is taking action against predatory tow truck drivers. These drivers will show up at an accident scene and pressure car owners to use their services and make it sound like they don't have a choice. But Alberta Transportation Minister Devin Dreeshen says that will change on August 8th.
That's why we will now be requiring tow trucks to stay at least 200 meters away from a collision scene unless instructed otherwise by police or the driver of a damaged vehicle. Now, the changes include a fine of $1,000 to tow truck drivers who enter that exclusionary zone and that includes dispatchers or others who instruct drivers to cross the exclusionary zone. These changes penalize bad actors in the tow truck industry and shield Albertans from unethical practices. They will also ensure a consistent provincial response to predatory tow truck driving behavior, which will help with insurance premiums from excessive towing fees.
These new offense provisions introduced by the province are another tool to keep our roads safe. In October of 2024, a tow truck operator was charged with theft over $5,000 when they would only release the vehicle after being paid a fee by an insurance company. And then, in May of this year, owners of 10 towing companies were charged with fraud. During this investigation, police discovered that numerous tow truck companies in Edmonton were reportedly fraudulently billing insurance companies for services that were not provided.
Police learned these companies were allegedly inflating bills, including charges to insurance companies for upwards of $5,000 for basic collision tows. Police estimate that these 10 companies have cost over $200,000 in fees that affect the insurance rates of all Albertans. Drivers in Lethbridge had to suffer through a major traffic headache Wednesday morning on Whoop Up Drive. At around 9:40 a.m., a truck carrying construction equipment struck the underside of the Whoop Up Bridge, forcing police to shut down the road in both directions. Police, Lethbridge Fire and Emergency Services responded to the scene. Fortunately, no one was injured. It took a couple of hours to get the mess partially cleaned up and traffic flowing again. Whoop Up Drive has been partially reopened from the off-ramp at South Scenic Drive onto Whoop Up. Police are reminding motorists to drive carefully and follow all posted signage. The Coaldale Summerfest returns from August 8th to 10th. Residents and visitors will celebrate this time-honored event featuring music, food, family fun, and local pride. Clayton Farjasi, Community Experience Manager for the town of Coaldale, says this year's theme is proudly Canadian, locally driven, which celebrates Canada's rich culture and reflects tradition with a patriotic twist.
One other new thing this year is we're actually adding a third indoor family zone. Then they're also going to do tours of the fire hall as well. It includes our long-standing candy parade, leaves from R.I. Baker. And on Friday, we have a movie in the park. And then on Saturday, things kick off with a pancake breakfast. Following that's the candy parade. And there's a food bank barbecue fundraiser. And then this year is a little unique. We're partnering with Ride for Dad and the fight against prostate cancer. And they're helping bring the Roadhammers to Summerfest. So they'll be our headliner this year.
With Ride for Dad, we're really excited to be partnering with the town of Coaldale this year, bringing in the headline act called the Roadhammers for the concert night on Saturday, August the 9th. This is the 25th anniversary of Ride for Dad nationally. Ride for Dad raises funds for prostate cancer research and awareness. In the 25 years that we've been around, we've raised $43 million so far, and we're so happy that the town of Coaldale wanted to partner with us and to bring awareness, involvement with Ride for Dad here in Coaldale and to spread awareness in the community.
Sounds like a whole lot of fun. Well, the city of Lethbridge is moving forward with its critical upgrades to its water treatment plant. A total of $67.2 million is being invested into these upgrades. $42.3 million will be allocated for a new water clarifier, with $24.9 million going to the voltage upgrades. The facility runs 24 hours a day, serving more than 133,000 of southern Albertans across 10 municipalities.
To celebrate the design phase of the expand capacity of this facility. Today, that process takes another significant step forward with the celebration of phase 1 of construction. This initial phase includes a new high-capacity clarifier to back up the 2 older clarifiers and electrical upgrades that will add additional power. The projects provide redundancy to ensure the plant continues to meet current capacity while also planning for future growth.
With $7.8 million invested in water and wastewater upgrades last year and $9.2 million committed this year, province continues to demonstrate its strong support for the water and wastewater treatment plants that serve this region. It's important to realize that this funding came through the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. However, most water and wastewater treatment plant funding comes through the Ministry of Transportation and Economic Corridors.
The $67.2 million investment has been carefully planned and responsibly funded. I'm proud to say residents won't see an increase increase in their water rates for this phase. Phase 1 provides redundancy to maintain and protect our current capacity. It also paves the way for expanding our daily capacity to 180 million litres, then 250 million litres.
During the summertime, our peak reached up to 135 million litres per day. That's during the summertime. During the wintertime, our average is between 65 to 70 million litres per day. So basically what we're doing, we're installing redundancy equipment. We have 2 clarifiers. Each clarifiers can do up to 75 MLD. And the reason is that if one of them goes down because of maintenance or failure, then our plant could be down up to 75 MLD during the summertime, which means we will need to put measures like water conservation restrictions or other things, ask customers to shut down in order to meet the capacity that we have. The redundancy that we're doing is adding another 90 MLD clarifier into the plant. So now if one is down, we still have 165 firm capacity, and we could, in theory, do up to 240 MLD with those 3.
Officials say phase 1 of construction is scheduled to begin later this month, with completion planned for December of 2027. Each year, Lethbridge's famous Whoop Up Days kicks off with a parade. Wednesday morning, Lethbridge District and Exhibition announced this year's parade marshal, or shall I say parade marshals. The Morris family has been selected to lead this year's procession. Not everyone is familiar with the family, but if you live around southern Alberta, you've definitely seen some of the many family-owned Gas King locations. The family has supported many community organizations over the past 40 years, including Whoop Up Days since 2001.
We've supported the Lethbridge Hurricanes, the Bulls. We've given money to Helen Schuler Nature Center, the Galt Museum. We've given money to the Lethbridge College. Also, our last fall, we've pledged $150,000 to the Chinook Regional Hospital Foundation for their Bringing Hearts Home campaign. I'm from Picture Butte, not too far away. Born in Lethbridge here. Been to the parade many, many times. Been to Whoop Up Days hundreds of times. Well, many times. And went to Whoop Up Days, Midnight Madness as a kid. So when we were approached about 25 years ago about selling tickets to Whoop Up Days, we were very happy to do that, and we've been doing that ever since.
This year, our theme for the Whoop Up Days parade is Hometown Heroes, and when we started to evaluate who met that criteria, one of the names that jumped to mind for us were the Morris family. They have been known to us here at Lethbridge and District Exhibition and through Whoop Up Days for 25 years. They've been supporting our event, but this is really a story about what they do throughout the community as a whole. This is a company that not only employs local people and gives back to our community in that way, but is also so charitable and so giving in everything that they do. And the number of organizations that they support in the city is a laundry list. It goes on for a long time. Everyone from the Community Foundation to the Chinook Regional Hospital to the Hurricanes and the Bulls. And it just keeps on going. And so when we talk about someone making a difference in the community and someone that deserves a little bit of that spotlight, the Morris family and Gas King jumped right to mind.
The iconic start to Whoop Up Days gets underway at 9 a.m. on August 19th at Park Place, a shopping center. Can't wait for that. And hopefully we'll have some incredible weather for Whoop Up Days this year too. Kind of like we're having right now. We'll be back with a beautiful forecast right after this. We were on our way to a lovely 27 degrees today and on our way to a lovely evening tonight as well. So partly cloudy skies tonight with clearing. Later on, also winds from the southwest at 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Those winds sticking around into Thursday. Going to start out sunny and then those clouds will move in. We'll see a 30% chance of showers by the afternoon and a risk of a thunderstorm on Thursday. High of 24 degrees. Then the temperature drops a bit there for Friday. 18, 60% chance of showers, and we're going to have a nice weekend ahead of us. So clear skies Saturday and Sunday, highs of 24 and 27 respectively on those days, all the way up to 30 degrees on Monday with mainly clear skies. And then on Tuesday, to round out that 7-day forecast, we're looking at high of 26 degrees, which puts us right as our average high for this time of year. Average low, 11 degrees. 35 was our high day on this day. Back in 1983 is when that happened. That was the record high for this day. Record low on this day was 1 degree, and that happened back in 1909. 29. Sun rose this morning at 6:09. Sunset this evening right at 9:05. So we're now in the 14-hour mark. So 14 hours, 56 minutes of daylight is what we're looking at today. It's about 4 minutes shorter than yesterday. It's happening fast, folks. Okay, on the west coast tomorrow, sunshine in Victoria, high of 20 degrees, 40K winds in the Juan de Fuca Strait right there. High of 21 degrees in Vancouver. Showers clearing up in the morning and then clearing after that. And Edmonton seeing 5 to 10 millimeters of rain. Also a risk of thunderstorm later in the day. High of 19 only. High of 21 degrees in Calgary tomorrow. Calgary also starting out sunny like Lethbridge. And then we're going to see 30% chance of showers and risk of thunderstorms there. So Saskatoon sitting at 25 tomorrow, 30% chance of showers there. High of 25 in Regina. Regina seeing 60% chance of showers, risk of thunderstorm. Now Winnipeg, local smoke but sunny and high of 29 degrees. Also seeing local smoke tomorrow is Toronto. Toronto coming in at 29 degrees as well. Clear skies, but again with that local smoke. 28 degrees expected in Ottawa with 60% chance of showers, risk of thunderstorms. And Montreal, mix of sun and cloud and high of 28 degrees. Fredericton seeing mainly sunny skies, a bit of fog patches dissipating in the morning, high of 29 there. Halifax 27, clear skies 26 for the high in Charlottetown, more like 20 closer to the water though, and high of 27 degrees in St. John, also seeing some local smoke there with that sunshine. So there you have it, that is your forecast. Air Canada flight attendants have voted 99.7% in favor to give their union a strike mandate. The union, which represents around 10,000 flight attendants, has pointed to key outstanding issues, including pay, pensions, and unpaid work, such as pre-flight safety checks. Canadian tech firm Cohere is making its new artificial intelligence platform more widely available. Its North platform has previously been used by a handful of companies like Royal Bank of Canada and Bell, but it's now getting a broader release. North can help companies summarize meetings, punch up marketing copy, answer customer support inquiries, draft financial reports, and more. It's able to personalize responses because users give the platform access to their existing data and workspaces, including Gmail and Slack. The Walt Disney Company says its profits climbed to nearly $5.3 billion US in its fiscal third quarter. That is up from about $2.6 billion a year ago. The California-based entertainment company says revenue hit $23.6 billion as it continued to add subscribers to its streaming service and see strength at its U.S. theme parks. Disney also has plans to build a 7th theme park in Abu Dhabi. Now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was up 350 points on the day to finish at 27,920. The Dow was up 81 points to 44,193. The S&P 500 was up 45 to 6345, and the Nasdaq was up 252 points to finish at 21,169. West Texas Intermediate oil was down 89 cents to 64.27 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 8 cents to 3.09 US. Gold was down 11.93 to 33.6920 US an ounce, and silver was even at 37.82 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $7.35 per bushel. Barley is at $5.88. Canola is at $15.21, and corn is at $7.16 per bushel. Live cattle were up 202 to 236.30. Feeder cattle were up 397 to 345.02. Lean hogs were up 10 cents to 108.87, and the Canadian dollar was even over the past 24 hours and currently sits at 72.80 US.
Recapping one of our top stories, Prime Minister Mark Carney is holding virtual meetings with his cabinet and the premiers less than a week after U.S. President Donald Trump hit Canada with a baseline 35% tariff. Ontario Premier Doug Ford says he wants to see dollar-for-dollar retaliation, but it doesn't mean he doesn't want to back Carney's approach. Also, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe says he disagrees with Ford and says that Canada needs to dial back those retaliatory measures. Production in various industries in Canada has slowed down in recent years, leading to stagnation and a slump in the incomes of Canadians. Philip Cross, former chief economic analyst with Stats Canada, says that he will talk about this and how increasing production in Canada will turn our slump into a bump. That is coming up next. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or our YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our stories and interviews.
In recent years, inflation-adjusted incomes have slumped in Canada, accompanied by a stagnation in productivity. What is all behind this? Well, joining us today to shed some light on this topic is Philip Cross. He spent 36 years at Stats Canada, the last few years as its chief economic analyst. He is a senior fellow of the Fraser Institute and the author of a new study entitled "Higher Labor Productivity is the Key to Faster Income Growth." Philip, it's great to have you with us today. Welcome to Bridge City News.
Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
So first of all, can you tell us to what degree are we seeing a slump in Canadian incomes, and how long has this been going on for?
Well, Canadian incomes have slumped, especially over the last decade. I mean, there's been a persistent slowdown since the mid-90s. That was the last time we had a big boom in our in income growth that was comparable to the heady days after World War II. But we've really struggled over the last decade. And what's notable is that isn't inevitable. You can't blame it all on aging or, some, the legacy of the great financial crisis, things like that, because our next door neighbors in the U.S. have done quite well.
Right.
You wouldn't know it from listening to the tenor of the discussion there. And, there are issues about income distribution down there and so on that I'm not going to get into. But the point is that, especially driven by the Magnificent Seven, their big technology stocks, they've been able to sustain the income growth, whereas we don't have any global leaders anymore. We used to have Nortel and Research Motion, BlackBerry, and our technology leaders have fallen by the wayside, and nobody stepped up to replace them. And as a result, and our resource sector has slumped over the last decade as well. So we haven't had anybody championing growth and driving growth in this country, and as a result, our overall growth has suffered.
Now, your study involves talks about higher labor productivity. Can you just define what you mean by the term labor productivity?
Yeah, well, it's output per hour. I mean, it's why is it a good thing? It's somebody asked me that recently, and I said, well, it's the benefits of higher labor productivity are like, a high school kid who's able to do their homework faster. The faster you can do it at the same with no loss of quality, the more time off you have for doing whatever you want, social media, sports, and so on and so forth. It's the gift that just keeps on giving. So if you have higher productivity, you're going to have higher incomes, and you're going to reap all the benefits from that. So the stagnation of productivity in recent years has been a problem.
And how do you calculate income? Is it just wages, or are other benefits included?
That's a very good point. A lot of people who arrive at the wrong conclusions in this subject pick the wrong measure of wages, and that is if you just look at variables like average hourly earnings or weekly earnings, which my former colleagues at StatCan produce, you're going to understate wage growth because, and it's not surprising, with an aging population, more and more workers in our society want to take their benefits in the form of higher pension benefits, higher health benefits. And so we've seen much more rapid growth in compensation in these areas. You remember even bonuses. You remember during the COVID pandemic that employers were offering retention or hiring bonuses to people. So if you just take a simple measure of wages as hourly earnings or weekly earnings, you're going to miss out on some of the more dynamic areas of compensation. And as a result, you're going to understate what income growth has been in recent years.
And it seems like it makes basic sense that if Canada boosts its productivity, then we should see growth in our income levels. But apparently there are those who argue that income and productivity are not linked. So how would you respond to those critics?
Well, the way I respond is that they're looking at the wrong variable. That say most of the time when people make mistakes in this area, and the people who claim that incomes have been lagging productivity consistently make this mistake. They take a narrow measure of wages. And as I say, they miss out on these areas of compensation that have shown the most growth. So if they take the most comprehensive measures of labor compensation produced by Statistics Canada, they would have arrived at a different conclusion. And the conclusion is that productivity and incomes have arrived in lockstep. That's a very important conclusion because it says that to fix our income problem, we need more productivity. And that means you're going to adopt a whole range of policies, such as higher business investment, that are going to be quite different than what these people recommend. People who say that incomes have lagged productivity, therefore say we need to concentrate in redistributing incomes, and they end up advocating a whole bunch of policies that in fact end up hampering overall productivity growth and hence income growth for everyone. So this is a very important issue. I mean, it may sound esoteric and technical to some of your viewers, but it's one that's really important to get right, because if you don't get it right, you'll go down a completely erroneous road in terms of what policies you're going to advocate.
Wow, that does sound really important. And you write that the temptation for governments would be to implement a socialist approach and try to redistribute income or offer tax rebates to offset lower worker incomes. But that would likely impact the economy negatively, wouldn't it?
Impact negatively, certainly if you're going to, we just talked earlier in this interview about how we haven't had any champions step up over
right.
the last 10 years. And that's one thing that's, quite different between Canada and the US. You look at the US where growth is being driven by these technology companies, NVIDIA, Google, Apple.
Right.
And, we talked about how, yes, it's driven higher. It's driven a lot of people have made a lot of money on this. That's something to be encouraged. I mean, Canada's problem isn't that rich people are taking too much of the income. It's that we don't have enough rich people. I wish we had more rich people who are earning more income. It would help drive overall incomes higher. So, if you end up focusing on redistribution, you're going to depress growth. But other, even conservative governments in this country, like here in Ontario, Doug Ford government was elected earlier this year, partly because they gave out $200 a person goodies right in the middle of the election. I mean, that's wonderful for getting reelected. I guess it worked. Bribing people with their own money often does. But it doesn't do anything to address Canada or Ontario's productivity problem in the long term. We would have been better off, instead of just one-time tax rebates, we would have been better off if we had reconfigured the tax system in a way that encouraged more business investment, for example, or improved our export competitiveness. So, it's I would call these tax rebates gimmicks and that don't boost growth in the long run, and redistribution policies as actually outright harmful to productivity and the growth in the long term.
Now, I want to talk about these champion companies that have sort of like gone by the wayside in the past. Like, what do you see in the future? Do you see like champion companies that could be coming into the spotlight soon? I mean, like even here in southern Alberta, it seems like this would be a great place for technology to expand with our abundance of energy, like whether it is coal or solar or wind, making southern Alberta a very affordable place to invest in if you're a technology company.
Well, I'm not discouraged about Canada's fundamental ability to generate income growth, to generate the next leaders. I'm certainly not going to predict individual companies, but Canada has As recently as 20 years ago, we had a dozen amongst the 100 leading companies in the world. Today we have one, Shopify. So, but
Wow.
I don't think, we've become stupid all of a sudden. We have, if you look at what are Canada's advantages, we're a huge country. So we're a cold country. Hard to believe right now in mid-July, but so we've developed advantages in long distance communications. We've always been good at Bell and Nortel and research in motion. We've always been good at the long distance transmission of energy. Hydro-Quebec pioneered that. Our pipeline companies are world beaters. We're very good at transportation. Our two of the five largest rail companies in North America are Canadian. So, we should concentrate on what we're good at. For government trying to force feed, trying to decide ahead of time, well, we're going to specialize in green energy. That's the wrong way to do it. Let's do what we've always been good at. Energy, transportation, communications, especially over long distances, infrastructure. We're good at all these things. We've been good at all these things in the past, and that's probably where we're going to excel in the future. And I'm not discouraged about Canada regaining some leadership in the technology sector either. As I said, we have a history there with Nortel and research in motion. I don't think that is imprinted in our DNA, and it didn't disappear just because we've had a few bad years and, frankly, some really bad governments.
Right, and I remember even technology-wise, the auction site eBay originally was Canadian. But how does Canada compare with other OECD nations in the area of productivity?
Well, quite badly compared to the U.S., and that's the most important one, because our young people growing up here, they have an easy alternative in the U.S. And if they continue to see income stagnate and housing become unaffordable and job opportunities limited here, it's natural they're going to look first to the U.S. I don't think it's enough. Our productivity performance has been probably comparable to that in Europe and Japan, but I don't think we should be patting ourselves in the back too much for that. Europe itself and Japan have both had very long term. We've had a problem over a decade. These regions have had a problem for several decades now in the case of Japan. So being as good as Japan and Europe isn't really anything to crow about. It means that we're lagging behind the U.S. like everyone else, and meanwhile, some up and coming middle income countries are increasingly catching up to us, such as South Korea, for example, and Brazil, some of these fast growing middle income countries. So we can't be complacent, or because if we continue to stagnate, we'll be the next Argentina rather than recapturing what Argentina is a good example of. There's a country that had a promising beginning, lots of resources. On paper, they have everything, and they've just frittered it all away with some terrible policies over in recent decades.
Right. And what can we learn from these other nations that you've listed? And what can we do in Canada to increase productivity? And what kinds of changes do we need? And how long would it take for these changes to produce growth in income?
Yeah. Well, I think we should concentrate on areas where traditionally we have been good. You can't survive in this country without energy. Energy, people have often talked about, we're the number one energy per capita consumers in the world. And it's because we're such a dark, cold place, and we have to travel great distances. As a result, we've had to be very good at energy, because without it, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't survive in this country. We have a comparative advantage in energy, and yet we've done everything possible over the last decade to discourage growth in many sectors of energy, notably oil and gas, but also pipelines. The opportunities were there. The Americans took advantage of them, and we didn't. So I think there are some instances of where we could have more growth that are right under our nose. But apart from that, I think though, I think we're past the point where tinkering with policies at the edge is going to help things. I think we're at the point now after a decade that we have to re-examine how we communicate and talk to the business sector. We have to stop this reflex of looking to, every time we have a problem, of looking to government, and especially my former colleagues in Ottawa, because I'll guarantee you, after 36 years in the federal government, if you're looking for the federal government to come up with innovative and creative solutions, you're going to be disappointed. So we have to stop looking to government to solve all our problems. We need to look at, for example, in the healthcare sector, it's not enough to just keep throwing more money into healthcare. At some point, we have to be saying to ourselves, how can we get the business community involved to help solve our healthcare problems? And until we start approaching things like that, I think we're going to continue to have problems.
Sounds like you hit the nail right on the head with those last few comments there. Philip Cross is a senior fellow of the Fraser Institute and the author of the study, Higher Labor Productivity is the Key to Faster Income Growth. Philip, great to have you with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
We all want to see our communities see crime decrease, right? But there's usually not enough government budget to go around to hire enough police officers to get that job done. But there are some volunteer groups who are making a difference. And one of those is Citizens on Patrol. So joining us today from Southern Alberta's Piikani Nation to tell us more is Kimberly Hurst. She's the president of the Alberta Citizens on Patrol Association, and RCMP Staff Sergeant Vince Bacon. So good to have you with us.
Good morning. Thanks for the promotion, Sergeant.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was Staff Sergeant. All right. Well, hey, can you explain, first of all, an overview, I guess, of what is Citizens on Patrol, or COP?
Yeah, go ahead, Kim. So Citizens on Patrol is a volunteer, and we are the extra eyes and ears of our local law enforcement agency. And on Piikani Nation, we fall underneath the RCMP. So we have a really good working relationship with the local detachment and Sergeant Bacon. Honestly, without that relationship and that partnership, we would not be able to do what we do in communities. So we're very grateful for that. Okay,
so you've got volunteers that are kind of keeping an eye on things. So you're on patrol at various times, and if you see something suspicious, you call the RCMP, basically.
We have a Signal app that we communicate on, as well as with Alberta Citizens on Patrol, we have an app that tracks us via GPS.
Okay.
We utilize both of those, and if we see anything, we'll let the members on duty know what's going on. We never get out of our vehicles and engage in any activity. Leave that to the RCMP. Our safety and security is of the utmost. So.
Now, Kimberly, you live in that area, right, in the Pincher Creek Crow's Nest area. So I think probably exciting news that again, this is a very first time that we've seen a First Nations group establish a Citizens on Patrol chapter. So what's the response been from the community?
It's been good. It's been good. We're always looking for more volunteers, but it's great to have the support of the community and from Chief and Council. Without the support of everybody, the saying goes, it takes a village, and it really does. It takes the whole nation here to ensure that this program is going to be successful, and that it acts what's happening, and that we have to work together to make it be a success.
Well, how many volunteers do you have right now?
We had 7, and as of yesterday, we now have 8.
Okay, so numbers are going up. That's a good thing. How many, I guess, would you ideally need to patrol effectively?
15 to 20 would be just magnificent, but as long as you have volunteers that are engaged, we can make it work as well.
Okay. Now, I understand that there was a grant given for this project. I'm assuming that's probably from the government of Alberta, or is it from the RCMP? I'm not sure where that's coming from. But you need some more funds, right? And so let me ask you, I guess, what does that money go towards?
So the first grant that we received, we got some jackets that have our logo on it and Alberta on Patrol logo, as well as some shirts, just to make sure that when we are out in community, people know who we are and what it is. And it helps to start discussion. What we're hoping for is additional funding for things like reflective vests, flashlights, and fuel to help us, as well as data to help cover the cost of a cell phone, so that sure that everybody who's patrolling has access to that while they're out on patrol.
Okay, gotcha. And so more funds needing to be raised. So I'm assuming there'll be some community or business fundraising, that sort of thing, or can you lobby the government for more funds, that sort of thing, or?
It'll be a mix of both. I mean, Sergeant Bacon and the detachment has been wonderful. They helped us with getting some new brochures. We have a wonderful banner on the side of the detachment with our logos on it together, which is a milestone in itself to have the RCMP logo with that. But ideally right now, we are looking for donations from community, local businesses, anybody that's able to support us. We are looking for additional grants and funding, but to get us going, just some local donations would be wonderful.
No, for sure. Yeah. Sergeant Bacon, did you stay in communication? Like when you know the COP volunteers are out there, do you sometimes give them a shout and say, hey, have you seen anything, that sort of thing? Particularly, I mean, if you're looking for something that's something's going down, and you're trying to prevent something from happening, that sort of thing. Do you sometimes use them as well? Again, they're extra eyes and ears. They're in places where you can't be. You can't be everywhere. Do you sometimes kind of communicate with them and tell us what's going on your end of town?
Absolutely. So absolutely, it's a partnership, right? We work all together. They supplement us by an extra pair of eyes. We work together. So let's say something suspicious happened. We have ways to communicate together. They will let us know what's going on. They are not going to deal with it, but they will let us know what's going on, as a witness, and it out there to address the situation.
Okay, and you mentioned again, sounds like volunteers are using their own vehicles. Now, are these marked vehicles or are they unmarked? And I guess would it be, is it better or worse to have them marked? Which one's more helpful?
Well, that's one of the projects we're looking at. So we know that the town on the Hayes side, Fort McLeod, have their own vehicle, marked vehicle. What we're looking at, it probably from money from the nation, would like to have magnets, so people see or volunteers patrolling in the area to reassure them.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose it does actually maybe add a bit of a sense of security, right? When you see that there's somebody out there looking out for you, right? So, and maybe even it's a bit of a deterrent too, who knows? But how often do members go on patrol, and how long are the shifts? And do you ever go out at night? I mean, of course, a lot of crime does take place at night, but that also makes it more dangerous potentially, I suppose, for volunteers. How do you handle that?
So at this point, obviously we're starting, so that the team were able to get on the road. By example, Halloween evening, we had a team on the road that were patrolling the area, making sure that everything's fine with the kids and that the community were safe. It's up to them, right? So a volunteer can show up, reach out to the detachment. Hey, I'm going to be on the road for the next 2 hours. Just so you know, if something happened, I'll reach out to you. So they can create an initial contact with the officers on shift. And, if they're available for 2 hours, it's 2 hours. If you can stick for 8 hours is even better. So, we're really flexible, and we do understand our volunteers are, volunteers, and we don't want them to feel like they have to stick to a schedule.
Okay, very interesting. Now, I understand that one of the areas members help with sometimes is called the Speed Watch program. Can you explain what that is and how it works?
So we have Speed Watch in some of our larger communities, and there's a mobile sign that's on a trailer that they will be able to move to different locations with partnership from their RCMP, letting them know, we want you to watch a playground zone, or we want you to watch coming into a community. And they will move that trailer that has radar enforced on a sign, and it will just read out digitally the speed that they're going. Not all of our communities have them. It's mostly our larger centers, but it is a really good initiative to have to keep some stats on things as well and to raise awareness.
Okay, yeah, and sure, whenever you see one of those, radar signs going up or down, it gets your attention and you slow down, right? So, hey, why not? So volunteers also spend time looking for things like illegally tinted windows, I was reading, and, or maybe even rolling stops at a stop sign, that sort of thing. So how do you go about handling that as a volunteer? Do they take pictures or videos of license plates, that sort of thing, and then send them along to the RCMP? How does that work?
The volunteers are witnesses. That's what it is. So just like anyone will be operating a motor vehicle on the highway and notice something suspicious, can reach out to police for assistance. It's the same thing. Like if they notice that a pattern, they can just take notes and provide a statement and provide the information to our detachment, and we will then address it accordingly.
Okay. It reminds me, one time I got a phone call from a police officer saying, somebody reported that, you were not driving safely at a Costco gas station. I'm going like, well, I was there, but, I didn't remember driving unsafely, but maybe I did. And it was a reminder to me and going, okay, yeah, I got to make sure I look at both ways when I'm exiting, that sort of thing. So, you guys do follow up on it. So good to know. Can you share any stories of how, go ahead.
I was going to say it's all about the approach, and it's all about the way we bring it up, and it's all I think that education is a big part of it, and I think people appreciate that phone call. A kind and polite phone call.
Right.
Hey, this is what.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Nobody was shaking their fist at me or anything. So, can you share any stories of maybe how a tip from a COP member actually resulted in crime prevention or arrests being made? I know it's new for you guys here in the Piikani Nation, but do you have any stories from other citizens on patrol places where this actually works?
I've been on patrol. This was a few years ago. I was on patrol in another community and noticed some suspicious activity, and I just felt that something was definitely off and we needed to report it. And it ended up resulting in a couple of DUIs. And then had another suspicious, that gut feeling that you get. And we had trying to steal fuel from a bulk gas station and put it into a drum in the box of their truck. We've had a lot that goes, and I guess we need to sort of toot our own horn a little bit more to let people know the work that we are doing on our own time, but it does make a big difference. I mean, and even if you're out and you don't see anything, that is also a success. We have made sure that we are a positive set of headlights that are out in community, and we're deterring. The simple steps of that can deter it.
Yeah, and I guess it's like anything else, right? I mean, there's going to be shifts where there's nothing happening and you're going, it's kind of exciting when something does happen in one sense, although ideally we'd like nothing to happen. We wouldn't even need COP, right, if everybody, did what was right. But it's not the world we live in. So, you know what? Hey, I want to throw that out there, I guess, as well for people who, enjoy those kinds of things where you get a bit of excitement, right? Well, you know what, and you're helping keep law and order, that's pretty cool. Now, what kinds of training do COP members undergo? I mean, you don't just send them out to the wolves sort of thing. There must be some sort of training, right?
Oh, you go ahead.
So in order to become a member, you need to get a current criminal record check. And once you've done that, we also have an application process where they have to fill out a form. We have communication with our local law enforcement agency that even after they filled out the record check, we do review that application to still ensure that this person is an appropriate fit. And then we have training that has been created by a retired RCMP member. And he had 36 years on the job in various positions. So he's really well aware of what we need to be looking for and what skills we need to be working on. So we do work with that as well. And he travels the province to different groups with us. And then we also work on just updating skills, area dependent on what our local law enforcement sees that we need in that area. And we'll bring in somebody to help us with that.
Okay.
Right.
And are our volunteers usually seniors? They have more time, right? Or do you get some young people involved?
No.
You know what? For example, our group here in Begunny, we have from, say, 23 to 73 for age range.
Okay, nice. I like it. Very good. And now, if I know we've got several COP groups in Southern Alberta, Coaldale, Tabor, I think Fort Macleod, Redcliffe, Pincher Creek, but you could probably use a few more, right? Other communities. And so if somebody wants to start up their own COP in their community, how do they do that?
Email president@acopa.ca and I will get back to them.
Okay, but anybody can do it, right? I mean, if you get the right person, we can get as many as we need out there, right? So, okay. Hey, well,
A change in their community and just wants to have a positive influence, a positive take on their community. And anybody can do it, and regardless of age. And for full patrols, as long as you're 18 and over and you pass that criminal record check, love to have you join us in any of our communities.
okay, sounds good. I appreciate what you guys are doing for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks to Kimberly and Sergeant Bacon here. Again, the president of the Alberta Citizens on Patrol Association. And Sergeant Bacon is the commander of the Piikani Nation RCMP detachment. I'm Paul Arthur, and on behalf of all of us at Bridge City News, thanks for watching.